A very warm welcome everyone. Today in this class we are continuing Unit 2 for class 10, that is classification of living beings under the subject science and technology. Now before beginning with this class I want to ask you guys a question. So we all know that vertebrates are divided into 5 classes. Can you name all of those classes in order? Let me give you a hint. I have told you about this mnemonics in the first class in which we were starting the animal kingdom. So now, can you name all the classes in order? Now please, P means Pisces, Amphibia, Reptilia, Aves and Mammalia. Pisces, Amphibia, Reptilia, Aves and Mammalia. Now, there is a reason as to why we have to study these classes in order, because that shows the evolution throughout time. Now, we all know that. I'll just give you an example of one evolutionary characteristics they have. Now, this is a Pisces, a fish. It is purely aquatic. Now, fish were purely aquatic, and some of the fish, they tried to go to the land and they couldn't breathe, so they came back to the water, and periodically when they did that, some of them developed respiration through skin, moist skin, or some of them also, and they also slowly developed lungs, leading to the evolution of the amphibians, which can live in both land and water. Now those amphibian, some of them slowly they start to adapt to the terrestrial life. Now their moist skin started to harden out, so that the evaporation or the water loss from the skin will be reduced, and slowly they'll develop into reptiles. And those reptiles, now slowly they adapted to a new characteristic, that is flying. So the reptiles who could fly slowly evolved into birds. And some of the reptiles they lay eggs, they are oviparous, and some of those reptiles, they slowly started to give birth to the young ones directly, and the scales, they were modified into hair-like structure covering all the body, and that led to the evolution of mammals. Now this is just one example of the evolution throughout the classes of the vertebrate. Why? And this is the reason why we must remember all the classes in order, because it has this evolutionary relationship among them. Now we have already studied about the Pisces in the previous classes. Now let us start studying about another class, that is the amphibians. Now the organism that belongs to the class amphibian, their name comes from two words. Amphi and bia comes from the word bios. Now amphi means double and bios means life. Now the word literally means living a double life. That refers to the ability of the animals that belong to the class to live both in water and land. Now that is one of the important characteristic of the amphibians. Now according to their name, it has dual mode of life. That is, it has two phases in their life. They have the larval phase, which is fish-like, that lives in water and swims with its tail, as you can see here. And since they live in water, they respire through gills. Now these are the tadpole, which is the larva of the frog. Now the other stage is the adult stage, which is terrestrial, and they move with their limbs, as you can see over here, and they respire through their lungs, through their skins, and they also have another mode of respiration we'll talk about in further class. Now, since they can live both in water and in land, it is called as amphibian, that is, has dual mode of life. Now, another characteristics of amphibians are they are the first vertebrate to invade the land. Now, I've already told you this while explaining the evolution of amphibians from Pisces. They were the first vertebrate, they invaded the land. but since they were the first one, they did not fully adapt to the terrestrial life, that is living in land. So they comes to the land, they go back to the aquatic life, they comes to the land, goes back to the aquatic life. Hence their name amphibians, having dual mode of life. Now, the reason why they do not stay in the land for longer period of time is because they have moist skin. Now, they do not have this protective cover in their skin that will prevent the water loss from their body. So, due to that reason, they should always stay in a certain damp place, or in a little or place that is very close to rivers or water source, so that they can wet their body periodically, because they have moist skin, and they also respire through their skin. So their skin should always be moist so that the oxygen can dissolve in their skin. Now, let me ask you a question. What do you mean by a poikilothermic organism? I have explained to you about this in the previous class. Poikilothermic organism. So what is it? Yes, it is the cold-blooded animals, that is the organism which can change their body temperature according to the change in the temperature of the surrounding. Now, the term poikilothermic comes from two words, poikilos, which means varied, and thermos means heat. So varied heat. So the name itself indicates that it is the organism which has variable body temperature that fluctuates according to the temperature of the surroundings. So these organisms are known as poikilothermic organism, and we studied that the pisces were poikilothermic organisms, and the amphibians are also poikilothermic organisms. They are only found in fresh water. They are never found in marine water. That is, they do not live in salty water or water that contains high amount of salt in them, like oceans and seas. But they only live in fresh water, in the water in which the salt concentration is lower. Now, they have two pairs of limbs. You can see they have the forelimbs and the hind limbs. And those forelimbs and hind limbs are pentadactyl, means they have 5 digits, as you can see over here. And the digits are without claws. You can see that the animals does not have claws in them, or they do not even possess any hoofs. Hoofs are the structure you can see in the foot of the horses. That is the best example of hoof. Now, it does not have nails, or it does not have hoof as well, but they have webs. You can see web-like structure in between the digits of these organisms. So they have two pairs of pentadactyl limbs, and the digits are without claws, nails or hoof, and they often have webs. Now, they have 3-chambered heart. Now we studied that the pisces has 2-chambered heart. Now, the amphibians has 3-chambered heart. Now, this is how the heart of amphibian looks like. In this, it has 2 atriums and 1 ventricle. So it has 3-chambered heart. Now, this atrium, it has oxygenated blood, and the right atrium has deoxygenated blood. And now both of this blood comes into the ventricle. Now the oxygenated and the deoxygenated blood, they mix together to form mixed blood. And this mixed blood is pumped by the ventricles to all the cells that is present in their body. So they have 3-chambered heart. It has 2 auricles and 1 ventricle. Now let us study more characteristics of them. They are unisexual organisms, means male and female reproductive organs are present in different organisms. Now they are oviparous, that is, they lay their eggs. But in the case of frogs, they lay their eggs inside water. Now, their body, they also need water, and the eggs also must be laid in water because they do not have a protective coat that controls the evaporative water loss from the skin, from the body as well as from the eggs as well. So that's why they either live in damp places and they breed in water due to this reason. So they lay eggs in water. Now, they need water for reproduction as well because external fertilization occurs. Now, the female, after mating, it lays egg in the water, and the male, it releases the sperm in the water as well, and in the water the sperm, it fertilizes the egg. Now the fertilization is external because the fertilization does not occur inside the female body. So they need water for reproduction, their fertilization is external, and they lay their eggs inside the water. Now, another characteristic is respiration. Now, respiration occurs through gills in the larval stage, that is when they are tadpole, respiration occurs through gills. Now, when they are living in land, they respire through either lungs. Now, you can also see that this frog, it is inside water, but you can see its nostril is still outside the water. Why? Because they need oxygen, they are respiring through their lungs, so they inhale oxygen from their nostril. Now you can see this frog, it is here with its mouth open. Now not only through their lungs and their skin, they also have buccopharyngeal respiration. So they respire through their buccal cavity. That is, you can see their mouth is open, the air goes inside it, and they respire, they absorb oxygen from the air inside their buccal and pharyngeal cavity. So the respiration, it occurs through gills, it occurs through lungs. They also respire through the lining of the buccopharyngeal cavity, and they have moist skin, so they also absorb oxygen from their skin. Now, why do they need so many mode of respiration? Even though they need so many mode of respiration is because it only has 3 chambers of heart that I just explained to you, and the oxygenated blood, it gets mixed up with the oxygenated blood, and the mixed blood will have lesser amount of oxygen in it. So they try to absorb a lot of oxygen, so that when the oxygenated blood gets mixed with the deoxygenated blood, the mixed blood will still have enough oxygen, which is supplied through all the cells of their body. So for that reason, they have multiple modes of respiration. Now, the body of amphibians is divided into head and trunk, but there are a few amphibians that also has tail, as you can see here. The frog, it only has head and trunk. This toad only has head and trunk, and we have salamander. You can see it also has head and trunk, but this amphibian also possesses a tail. Similarly, newt is example of another amphibian which looks like a salamander, and it also has tail with them. So the body is divisible into head and trunk, and a few of them also has tail. Now the example of the amphibians are frog, toad, salamander, newt, etc. Now let me ask you guys a question. When you look at these two organisms, can you point any difference between them? Yes, you can see that this organism, it is a newt, and its skin is moist. But you can see this is a bearded lizard. It has scales all over its body, and it has dry horny scales. Now, that is the major difference between the amphibians and the reptilians. The skin, the amphibians start to adapt to the terrestrial life, and slowly their moist skin starts to harden and scale-like structure forms all over their body to prevent the water loss from their skin, so that they can survive in the terrestrial environment. So this is an amphibian and this is a reptile. Now let us talk about another class, that is class Reptilia. The word reptilia comes from the word reptilis, which means crawling. So these organisms, they crawl so that they can locomote. You can see that the snake is crawling, and the lizard, it crawls in our walls in our house, the wall lizards. So all the organisms are reptiles. Now let us study about a certain characteristic of these organisms. So the first characteristic we will talk about is it is the first vertebrate to fully adapt to life on land. Now the amphibians were the first vertebrate to go to the land, but they could not fully adapt to the terrestrial life. But reptiles are the first vertebrate to fully adapt to the life on land. Now some of the reptiles, they live in water, but they return to the land for breeding, such as crocodiles or turtles. They do that. Now the body of the reptiles, it is covered by dry and horny scales. Now this scales, it prevents water loss from the body, hence it helps these organisms to adapt to the terrestrial life. So this is also one of the characteristic features of the class Reptilia. Now the body is covered by dry and horny scales. Now they have two pairs of pentadactyl limbs. You can see that this is a crocodile. Now it has four limb, this is hind limb, and it also have another hind limb in this side. It is, you cannot see it in this diagram, but it is present in the other side and it is hidden. So it has one pair of hind limbs and one pair of forelimbs, and it has pentadactyl limbs, means it has 5 digits. You can see over here 1, 2, 3, 4 and 5, and the digits of the reptiles, they have claws in them. The digits of the amphibian did not have any claws in them, but reptiles has claws in them. But there are certain reptiles that does not have any limbs. For example, you can see this is a snake, and you can see it does not have any. It does not have any limbs. So limbs are also absent in few of the reptiles. Now they are poikilothermic organism, means they are cold-blooded organism. Their body temperature, it fluctuates, that is, it changes according to the fluctuation in the external environment. Now the external environment's temperature, it increases, the temperature of their body also increases. If the external temperature decreases, the body's temperature also decrease. Hence, they are known as cold-blooded animals or poikilothermic animals. Now, another characteristic is they respire through lungs. Now, you can see crocodile, even though they stay in water, their nostrils are out of the water because they need to breathe in oxygen, because they respire through their lungs. So the another characteristic is they respire through lungs. Now they have 3-chambered heart, except the crocodiles, which has 4-chambered heart. Now it has a little different type of 3-chambered heart. We studied that the amphibians has 3-chambered heart. The amphibian has this type of heart. Now the reptilia, it also has 3-chambered heart. In the case of reptilia, their ventricles are incompletely divided. So it is also considered as 3-chambered. It has 2 auricles and 1 ventricle. The ventricle is not fully partitioned. That's why we considered it as single chamber. So it has 3-chambered, but actually it has incomplete 4-chambered heart. So now, due to the presence of these partition, the oxygenated and the deoxygenated blood, it does not completely mix with each other. Some of the deoxygenated blood remains here and oxygenated blood remains here. So due to this reason, they do not need multiple modes of respiration so that they can inhale high amount of oxygen, because this partition it prevents a lot of mixing of the deoxygenated and the oxygenated blood in their ventricles. There is an exception, that is, in case of crocodiles, it has complete 4-chambered heart, but remaining reptiles, they only have 3-chambered heart. They are unisexual organisms, that is, the male and the female reproductive organs are present in different organisms. Now the fertilization is internal. Internal fertilization means the sperm fertilizes the egg inside the female body, and in case of reptiles, internal fertilization occurs, and they are oviparous. That means they lay eggs. They do not give birth to the young ones. They are not viviparous. They are oviparous. That is, they lay eggs. Now you can see here the snake, it has laid eggs, and the eggs, it gives rise to the new organism. And in the case of turtles as well, the turtles, it lays egg, and you can see that baby turtles are coming out of these eggs. So reptiles are oviparous in nature. Now the few examples of reptiles are iguana, turtle, snake, crocodiles. There are so many other examples of reptiles as well: crocodile, wall lizard, etc. Now we have studied about 2 classes in this class and 1 class in previous class. The first class was Pisces, we studied in the previous class. Now we studied about reptiles, and we studied about amphibians, and we studied about reptiles. Now we will study about another class. So which is the class that comes after reptiles? Yes, these are the aves. Now the word aves come from the word avis, which means bird. Now these are the reptiles. Now, can you see what similarities and what dissimilarities do they have? Yeah, first of all, the obvious difference, that is, the birds, they can fly, and the reptiles, it cannot fly. Now another some characteristic that is similar. Yes, you can see that they have scales. Even though they do not possess scales all over their body, the scales is reduced, and you can see in their legs, in the feet region, you can see there are scales, which is similar to the scales of the reptiles. And you can see that their digits, it also has claws in them, and the digits of reptile also has claws in them. Now aves evolved from reptiles, and they have more advanced characters than the reptiles. So that is the reason why birds are also called as glorified reptiles, because they have more advanced character in addition to the characteristics of the reptiles. That's why they are also called as the glorified reptiles. Now let us talk about Archaeopteryx. Have you heard about the word Archaeopteryx? Yes, I guess you guys should have heard about this word, because Archaeopteryx is a very famous organism that is a dinosaurus, and it was extinct many years ago. Now this Archaeopteryx fossil was found, and this indicated that this was the connecting link between the reptiles and the birds. This Archaeopteryx showed that the aves, that is the birds, they evolved from the reptiles. Now these Archaeopteryx had both reptile-like feature as well as bird-like feature. The Archaeopteryx has this long tail, and it also had hands, and it also had claws, as you can see over here, which is a reptilian characteristic. Now the body, you can see it had wings and feather-like structure, so it indicates the avian characteristic as well. So it was the connecting link between the reptiles and the aves. Now let us study about certain characteristics of aves. Their body is covered by feathers. Their body has head, neck, trunk and tail. You can see this, for example, swan. It has head, it has this long slender neck, it has a trunk and it has a tail. The body of the aves can be divided into head, neck, trunk and tail. Now they have two pairs of limbs, in which this is a forelimb, this is a hind limb. The forelimb they are modified into wings, and the hind limb they are used for walking. Now these animals are homeothermic. So what do you mean by a homeothermic organism? Yes, these are the warm-blooded organism in which the body temperature, the internal body temperature, it does not change according to the fluctuation in the temperature of their surrounding. Now from the word itself, homeothermic. Homeo comes from the word homeos, which means similar, and thermos comes from the word thermic comes from the word thermos, which means heat. So they have similar heat. So these are the homeothermic organisms, are the organism who has same body temperature, and the temperature does not fluctuate according to the change in the temperature of their surrounding. So the aves are homeothermic organism. Now they breathe through their lungs, and they have four-chambered heart. Now I have a heart for you guys. Now this is the heart of a chicken, and chicken belongs to the class aves. Now you can see over here, these are all the blood vessels that brings, these holes are the blood vessels that brings blood to and from the heart. You can see the blood still comes out from them, and from outside only we can see that it has two atrium, and they also have two ventricles. Now let us cut this open so we can see the internal structure as well. Now you can see that this is the interventricular septum. This is one ventricle and this is another ventricle. And you can see over here, these are the two atriums. So from this we can see that it has four-chambered heart, two atriums and two ventricles. Now you can see over here it has, this is one ventricle, this is another ventricle, this is one atrium, and you can see this is another atrium. From this you can see that the avian heart, it has four chambers, two atrium and two ventricles. Now we all know that most of the aves can fly. So do you guys know any modification in their body that is present which helps them to fly? Now birds can fly because their body has air sac. Now you can see that this green structure and this yellow structure are the air sac. These air sacs, they serve as an internal compartment that holds the air. Now these air sac, it facilitates the internal air passage so that it can allow the birds to have this continued flow of large volumes of air through their lungs and through their lungs. So these increases the oxygen exchange capacity in their body and increases the efficiency of the oxygen exchange capacity as well, because they have to continuously fly. So the pectoralis muscle, that is the muscle that helps the bird to fly, it should have continuous supply of oxygen because a lot of energy is required for flying. So they need high amount of oxygen. So for that reason they have air sac in addition to the lungs as well. These air sac, they holds the air so that they can increase the oxygen exchange capacity as well as the efficiency of the oxygen exchange capacity. Now they have pneumatic bones. Now the bone structure of the birds are very unique because it is hollow and it is filled with air filled spaces. Now you can see these are the bones, and the bones are pneumatic, means hollow. Now these bones are hollow by the forward air sac, and the bones that is present on the rear side are made hollow or pneumatized by the rear air sac. Now due to these hollow structure of the bones are lighter. So if the body is lighter, they can fly easily. Another modification is they do not have bladders to store urine. Now if they had bladder to store urine, their body would be heavier. So they do not store urine, and instead they have a cloaca, and which is a single opening that has multiple function. It excretes waste through the cloaca, it lays egg through the cloaca, and it also reproduces through the cloaca. So birds do not have bladder, so they cannot store urine and stool in them. That is why the bird, they defecate even when they are flying, and you can see your houses and the cars, and even when you are walking by, the bird will defecate over you as well. That is the reason, because they do not have any storage place. They do not store anything in their body so that their body will be light. Now they are unisexual organism, that is the male and female reproductive organs are present in different organism. As you can see over here, this is a male chicken and this is a female chicken. This is a male peacock and this is a female peacock. They are unisexual. Now internal fertilization occurs. That means the sperm fertilizes the egg inside the female body, that is they have internal fertilization, and they are oviparous, that is they lay egg, and from that egg young one hatches out, as you can see over here. So aves are oviparous. Now a few examples of aves are toucan, duck, peacock, turkey, sparrow, ostrich. Now ostrich is the bird that cannot fly. Most of the aves, they can fly, but there are some examples of birds such as ostrich, kiwi, they cannot fly. Now in this class we studied about three classes: the amphibians, the reptiles, and the aves. Now I'll ask you guys a few questions so that you can check yourself if you have understood what I have taught you. So the first question is, which one of the following is a warm-blooded animal? This is a very easy question. Now you have four options: frog, newt, crocodile, and parrot. Which one of them is warm-blooded organism? Yes, parrot, because frog is an amphibian, which it is poikilothermic, that is cold-blooded. Newt and crocodile also are cold-blooded organism, whereas parrot, it is aves and it is warm-blooded organism. Now I have four arguments for you guys, and you have to see which is correct and which is incorrect. Now the first argument is amphibian respire only through gills. Is this correct? No, it's incorrect. It's partially correct, because amphibians, they respire through gills but in aquatic form, but they do not only respire through gills. They have multiple mode of respiration. They respire through their moist skin. They have buccopharyngeal respiration. They have lungs for respiration as well. So this is incorrect. That is, amphibian not only respire through gills, they have different mode of respiration. And all those mode of respiration, they either occur one at a time, or or multiple mode of respiration can happen at the same time also. So the first argument is incorrect. Now the second argument, body of the reptile is divided into head, neck, trunk, and tail. Is this correct? Yes, it's correct, because we have seen the examples of the reptiles. For example, in the case of lizard, you can see it has head, it has a small neck, it also has this large trunk and long tail as well. So reptile's body is divided into head, neck, trunk and tail. You can also see this in your house in the case of wall lizard. If you see it closely, you can see that the body has these scales all over their body, and they have the 4 limbs, pentadactyl limbs, long tail. Their body can be divided into head, neck, trunk and tail as well. So make sure you see a lizard that is in your home very closely and try to learn about a few characteristics of reptile that I just taught you in this class. Now, the third argument is aves have feather as endoskeleton. Is this correct? This is a little confusing, but it is incorrect. Why? Yes, aves has feather, but the feather does not act as an endoskeleton. It acts as an exoskeleton. Now, I have taught you this multiple times in previous classes. Exo and endo. Exo means external, endo means internal. Now, endoskeleton means skeleton that is present inside the body, and exoskeletons are the skeletons that is present outside the body. Now, the feathers are exoskeleton, not endoskeleton. So, the argument is partially incorrect, making it completely incorrect, because we cannot say this is correct because it is only partly correct. Now, the fourth argument is amphibians mostly have external fertilization. Is this correct? Yes, it's correct, because I've said the female, they lay eggs in the water, and the male, they releases sperms all over the eggs in the water. So the sperm does not fertilize an egg inside the female body, it fertilizes it inside the water, that is in the external environment outside the female body. So that is amphibians mostly they have external fertilization. Now I have last question for you guys. I have a statement and 2 arguments from 2 different peoples. Now let's see whom among those 3 are correct. Now the first statement given by this person is, frog they respire through lungs in water and through skin in air. Now another person gave the first argument. Now including frogs, all the amphibians has 2-chambered heart. And the another person, he gave another argument. Normally their body is divided into head and trunk, having 4 limbs. Now, whom among them are correct? Let us see individually. Statement: frog respire through lungs in water and through skin in air. Is this correct? Is the statement given by this person correct? No, it's incorrect. Why? Because they respire through lung when they are in land, and they respire through skin when they are in damp places or even inside the water in certain cases. So the statement is incorrect, because they do not respire through lungs inside water. So this person is incorrect. Now let us see the first argument. Including frogs, all the amphibians have 2-chambered heart. Is this argument correct? No, it's incorrect. Why? Because Pisces has 2-chambered heart, but the amphibians have 3-chambered heart, 2 auricles and 1 ventricle. So this person is also incorrect. Now let us see if he is correct or not. Normally their body, that means the body of the frog, is divided into head and trunk, having 4 limbs. Is this correct? Yes, it's correct, because we studied that the body of the amphibians are mostly divided into head and trunk, and there are some examples of amphibian that has tails in them as well. For example, salamanders. So this statement is correct, and we also studied that they have 2 pairs of limbs, that is 4 limbs in total. So the argument second is correct. So only the argument 2 is correct. Now in this class we studied about 3 classes of the vertebrates: the amphibian, the reptilian and the aves, and we studied about all the characteristic as well as certain characteristic that are similar in between those classes as well. Now in next class we'll study about the last remaining class, that is the which class is remaining, the final class? Yes, it's the mammals. So we'll study about mammals in the next class. So I'll see you all students in next class.